All right, we are live. We are live. Good afternoon, everyone. Just trying to get us up and shared on a few pages here. Chris is here. She's joining us. She's behind the scene, guys, manning the chat. So if you have questions today, please, please, please do not hesitate to comment or enter them into the comment section and put your inquiries there, and we will be sure to answer them and get back to you with the response during our live today. So, guys, welcome to Kingdom Kinesis, where we inspire women to action through partnership with God, partnership with self, and partnership with community. We go live on Sundays from 3 to 3:30 p.m. EDT, and that's 2 to 2:30 Central Time. Thanks for joining us today. Many wonder if it's possible to be compassionate and corporate. Does a career in nonprofits work equate to God work, while a corporate career equate to worldliness? Or is it possible for the two to collide, resulting in beautiful kingdom work? Here to help us discuss Kingdom Merger when compassion and corporate collide is Keisha Hayes. Keisha, welcome to Kingdom Kinesis. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to shut up now and have you tell us about yourself.
Thank you so much for allowing me to be here. This is such a wonderful opportunity, and I appreciate that. I am a Christian first, a mother of two wonderful, beautiful individuals, an 18-year-old who has finished high school in the midst of all this COVID-19 pandemic, and an 8-year-old who's going to the third grade. So I am very fortunate and blessed to have them and a whole bunch of wonderful people in my life. I am considered the Aging Beauties care consultant and a leader in professional development. So I own Professional Development and Training Services, which is a post-secondary institution that teaches healthcare curriculum to individuals. And I own Caring for Aging Beauties Home Care, which serves senior citizens in their home, as well as a nonprofit that shows companionship and social engagement to our aging beauties who are senior citizens.
You said so much. All I heard was Christian mom. I own a post-sec institution. Okay, when you said I own an institution, I said, you better say that, girl. And you're considered an expert as well in your field. That's a lot, right? So you started your career as an LPN, right?
Yes.
And your journey took you beyond direct care as a nurse to your current standing. You instruct, you're a business owner, as you mentioned, you're an author, you're a coach. How did you get here, Keisha?
Oh my goodness, it's been an amazing journey. It has been long, but it's been so rewarding. I tend to think about a lot of different things that got me to where I'm at right now, and it hasn't always been glamorous. A lot of times people will look at someone who owns businesses and think that they have it all together or they're living this wonderful life. And I tell people all the time, be careful how you're looking at someone else's journey, because you do not know what it took for them to get there and what it's taking for them to remain there. I've had a lot of no's on this journey, and to me, I've learned that no means not over. You just have to keep going. And one of the things that was so profound for me in my journey, I started out at Francis Marion University thinking that I was going to be a teacher, ended up finishing my major in sociology. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I had tenure at DSS as a food stamp caseworker, then went on to working with sexual assaulted children, and I just didn't know my path. So I finally went back to school for my master's in healthcare administration and ended up not being able to find a job at any of the hospitals in South Carolina after applying to various hospitals. And then on my journey, I decided that with the MHA, I would go back and get a clinical skill and that was a certified nursing assistant skill. So with the MHA, I took this, I think it was a 12-week program at the time. I drove to Florence every single day for about 12 weeks. And the profound thing that occurred to me was when I was in my clinical rotation and I was on my first day assisting this resident, this African-American woman. And I remember we started off the day where I would be giving her her breakfast. And I remember her getting her tray. And just to give you a background, when a senior citizen cannot leave their room to go to the dining hall with other people, you have to carry their tray to their room. So imagine when they get their tray, the tray is not warm anymore, it's cold. So I asked her if I could warm it up for her. Right. I went and used the microwave at the nurse's station, warmed the food up, came back. She started eating and she started crying. And I said, oh my goodness, what is wrong? And I was already freaked out. It was my first day in clinical rotation, never had hands-on anything in the medical field. And she said, I've lived here for 10 years and I've never had warm food. So it broke my heart. And then at the end of the day, I remember finishing everything I had to do with her. And I said, we are all done, so let me give you a pedicure. So we couldn't cut the toenails because of diabetic issues, but I kneeled down on my knees and I washed her feet. She took her hands and she cussed my cheeks and she raised my head. And once again, she was crying and she looked at me with tears in her eyes streaming down. And she said, I've served so many people, but no one has ever served me. And instantly I knew that was my calling. That was my calling. It spoke to me because it made me understand that sometimes when you don't know the direction that God is pulling you in, you are reminded by those that you serve because they're healing from those people who you serve, and they speak that healing to you in their thank yous and in the rewarding feelings that you get when you are doing what you do. So after leaving clinical rotation and finding out that I wanted to serve senior citizens and I wanted to be in the healthcare industry, I did do that. And God was still calling me to branch out on my own. And I ended up being in the assisted living field. And once again, when God is calling you to do things and you don't listen, he'll give you those little nudges. And then when it's time for you to move forward, if you don't listen, he will force you out when you don't come out. And so I was in this place where I was comfortable and I was receiving the paycheck every 2 weeks. And I thought that tangible thing was something that would be certain. And I ended up losing my job because I spoke up about something that was not right in my organization. And that was God's way of saying, you don't belong here. I've given you the purpose. You need to have faith and trust in me to just move forward. And that's how this all started.
Whew, okay. So let's back up a few things because you mentioned something. You had finished the MHA and then went for the CNA certification, right?
Yes.
Now, I want to address that, and honestly, I want to speak to the level of humility in that, because what if you don't understand it, that is a credential that is the CNA certification is an entry level credential.
Yes.
Most people start off with home health, which doesn't usually require credentialing, then the CNA, then LPN, RN or BSN, and so forth, masters and so forth. Most people don't start with a graduate degree and then go to an entry-level credential like CNA. But you have the humility to do it. And you were placed in a situation where you said, you know what, this is something that I think may work for me. I'm going to travel that path. And I want to commend you for that, because sometimes we get so caught up in the expectation that comes along with achievement that we fail to follow where God is prompting us to go. I'm going to stop because I'm feeling good. But I want to commend you on that, Keisha, because I think that is no matter whoever's listening, it doesn't matter what credential you currently have. It doesn't matter if you have a professional degree,
That's
what
right.
your team is. If you are being called to go a certain place, to serve a particular group of people, if you know in your heart that you need the training to become equipped to do that thing, don't worry about how outsiders are going to view that.
Right.
First of all, they don't even have to know your business. Let's just talk, because everybody doesn't need to know what you're doing. Okay, they don't. They don't, because everyone's not going to speak into what you're developing or how God is developing you. So it's very important. We have a testimony right here from someone who is making it happen, of how she clothed herself in the humility and just went where she was led to go. And it's really yielding some amazing things. So I just want to say bless you for sharing that. I love that.
And I wanted to piggyback off of what you were saying about humility. I remember when I did attend that class, everybody was introducing themselves, and I have no idea why the instructor, who happened to be the owner of the program, she was just one of the teachers, but when everybody introduced themselves and she introduced me, she said to the students, "This is Keisha Hayes. She has a master's in healthcare administration." And all the other students in the classroom looked at me and said, "And why do you want to be a CNA?" And that disgusts me on two levels. One, they thought that because I had an MHA that I was a little bit higher than them. And they put themselves down because they were so-called just being a CNA. I tell people all the time, you're not just anything, but you're everything.
Yes.
And anything that you determine that you're going to put forth yourself in life, and whatever the occupation is, be all you can be in that. And it doesn't matter if I had an MHA and I wanted to take a CNA class. That just makes me more skillful in what I'm doing, and it adds another trade to my belt. And those of you who are CNAs and that's all you want to do, that's okay, because you're living out what God told you to do, and nobody's going to understand your platform because He didn't give it to them. He gave it to you.
Yes. Oh, you better stop. We about to have church up in here. You got a tambourine? Because I swear, if I had one, girl, I'd be knocking it out. Okay. But that is so true. And it's so important that people hear that. I love what you just said. You're not just anything. You are everything. And if you are a believer, and we say we know our identity is in Christ, then we should definitely own that, no matter what our occupation is, and understand that. So thank you so much, Keisha. That's awesome. So, okay. So now we understand the level of care, compassion we have for people, and the impact that our actions have. And I say our, because now me and you are in community, we're one. So I'm saying us, right? So we understand the level of care and compassion that we have, and the impact that it has on others. But then, how or when did you discover you had this entrepreneurial spirit as well? And what made you decide to express it through, a nonprofit structure? I mean, what happened there? Because some people would hear, oh, she has all this compassion. If she starts anything, it's just God work. It's just mission oriented. We're not thinking about being corporate or approaching it from a corporate mindset, etc. So what happened? When did this occur?
Well, in my business plan, I started off with professional development and training services, which is a for-profit. And when you're running a for-profit organization, it just means that you can raise money from private investors. The money belongs to you, the owner of the company, and you're expecting a return on investment from everything that you get. Nonprofit was in that business plan, but it would come later because of the love that I had for Asian beauties, who I coined the term for senior citizens. And the nonprofit sector is where we wanted to seek donations from individuals, corporations, foundations. And it just meant that we didn't pay taxes on our revenue. But, a nonprofit is very tightly regulated. So we wasn't thinking about the difference in structure. We were just thinking about who we wanted to serve and how we wanted to serve. But all together, and really the priority of being an entrepreneur and having the entrepreneur way of things. It's just a mindset. Being an entrepreneur is a mindset. It's the attitude that a person has. It's not them going along with adapting to change, but they are actually seeking change. They're trendsetters. They're innovating different things. They're making change in their community. They're fulfilling God's purpose in their journey, because they understand it's not a destination. And so that's what that means to me, more so than it is about who how we're serving. It's who we're serving, and it's making sure that the people that we come in contact with are impacted greatly on another level.
I love that. It's so important. You're saying it's about the mindset of, one, understanding purpose, and then fulfilling purpose through trend setting and innovation.
Right.
So we serve a mighty and beautiful and big God that created all that we see around us, from, butterflies with the most ornate wings to, the heavens above. Yet sometimes we have a tendency to say, well, if I want to do a thing, people say that it has to be done this way, so I must do it that way. Well, there's so much creativity that lies within you because you are connected to the Creator. You have the green light to tap into that and bring it all together. Become equipped, study, research, but don't be afraid to merge all your passions together to make moves and to move ahead. You're a trendsetter, a purpose-filled trendsetter first. I like how you said that, Keisha. Right. I love that. Thank you.
It includes preparation. Anytime you are wanting to get to a particular place, you have to prepare for that. And there's going to be a lot of delays, and there's going to be pitfalls and pit stops along the way. But it's just like a road, a highway. On the side of the highway, there's your guardrails. Those are the things that you are to consider your values, the things that are non-negotiables. And when you're traveling to fulfill God's purpose and you're trying to reach this vision along your journey, you have to make sure that you stay in alignment to what His will is and what He called you to do. So when you're going on pit stops or feeling like you're going to go off to the side of the road, there's those values. That's God's word. That's His will. Those are the things that's keeping you centered. And it's just like horses. My dad trained horses, and he retired as a horse trainer. And when we would go to the track, they put those blinders on because we're not comparing ourselves to others. We're not looking at how anybody else is running their race.
Yes.
We're running our own.
I love it. I love it. Nikki Moore Hawkins, one of our viewers, just said, "You preaching, girl." You preaching. Yes. Janet Tim, who's listening, and also said the little things can make a big impact in someone else's life. She's referencing your experience when you were doing your rotation as a CNA. So awesome. Janet, Ewa, Nikki, thank you so much for listening in. Tawana Hayes Tobias, I wonder who that is. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for tuning in. So Keisha, people don't often view nonprofits as businesses. We talked about that because their aim is to impact and benefit the public versus private interests of an owner or a shareholder, like you said, an investor. But nonprofits are businesses too, because the tools and the practices that help businesses succeed also help charities, so to speak, meet their mission. So how do you reconcile your strong sense of community and giving back with your entrepreneurial spirit? It's a two-part question, Do you see them as working in concert together, or are they at odds with one another? And you touched upon this briefly just a second ago, but can you go into a little bit more detail about that?
Yes, I see it as working together because, once again, the mindset that you have to serve people in the community, it doesn't matter what structure your business is. It just matters on how you are able to do that and making sure that you meet those needs of the people that you serve. And you have to remember that in order to serve people, they have to know who you are and the services that you offer. You could be in this nice building located in this nice area, but no one has ever heard of you. So they don't know that you're out there to meet a particular need. So even though you have the mindset to seek change and to be innovative, you still have to market and let people know what your services are and who you serve and what you can do. So I think it works hand in hand, and just truly being able to make sure that you stay the course of serving the people that God has asked you to serve. Sometimes we could get very bombarded with, okay, now I'm here serving aging beauties and caregivers. Let me go open up a restaurant now. And I'm not saying that a person can't venture off to do something different, but make sure you stay aligned to what it is that your calling is. Because once you go out of your lane and don't stay on the course, then you tend to get off of the purpose that God has for your life, and it just messes things up. So I to answer your question, it all collaborates with each other.
I love it. So far we've established that you need to stay the course and make sure, one, that you identify and you know your purpose. If you're listening and you're trying to figure out what that means, please go back a few videos where we had Sister Michelle Renee on discussing purpose and how to discover that. And then also make sure you follow up with Sister Eva Hawkins, who discussed the gifts. Okay, so it's very important that you understand purpose. Like Keisha said, if you don't know it, what will happen is you'll find yourself all over the place trying to do everything and not accomplishing as much as you could be, because you're not as effective. You're not even really, you work in a different lane.
Yes, master your art, master what it is that you've been given.
I love it.
And it's okay that, like me, I've been in the post-secondary institution field, serving these students, helping them become the next level professionals in the healthcare industry. But for 5 years, we've been perfecting our craft. We've been adding new certifications. We've been allowing the certifications that we have now to grow and expand. We've improved on different things that are opportunities for growth and development. So it doesn't mean that you have to keep adding. You can take what you have, master that, and make sure mastering it can allow the people that you're serving to have so much more because you did that.
I love it. I love it. Okay, we're gonna get to the summation of everything because I have a little list. You know, I'm always writing, y'all. Y'all think I don't be right behind the scenes. I'll be writing on my little notebook, okay? All right, on my little notebook. But what drives you to grow, expand, to pursue new business opportunities? And you said it's been like over 5 years you keep building. What drives you to do that?
So I have to go back to the why. You know, it's very hard. It is sometimes days when you just want to give up. There have been those pit stops that I've talked about. The journey hadn't always been glamorous. You know, the behind the scenes have been real wild and crazy. But deep down in my heart, knowing that I get to be a voice for those people who are vulnerable, like senior citizens who cannot speak up sometimes for themselves, or who have paved the way for us to be able to do what we do as a 43-year-old, you know, and those caregivers who are tirelessly, even during this COVID-19, working on the front lines to protect us. You go back and you think, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I get to serve these people. And then you also go back and you say, I'm being pleasing to God. You know, He's called me to do something. And I listened to the call and I went forward in faith to meet the calling, because God never gives you a calling where He doesn't give you the provision to carry that calling out. So you have to make sure you're in tune with Him and your relationship with Him is intact enough to hear His voice along the way. When sometimes you feel like you're all alone, you're dying inside, you have no one to talk to, you know, things are falling apart all over, and you're still walking around and people think you have it all together when actually you're crumbling. But that's because, you know, God is able to strengthen you in your times of weakness. And when you hold on to his will, His strong will, He allows you to succeed and build and move forward. So just deep down inside, going back to your why and holding on to His faithfulness, his long suffering.
I love it. That's good. I mean, I want to point out something we always talk about here on Kingdom Kinesis. Mm-hmm. You keep referencing God, but not only that, you're intertwining scripture into your knowledge of the Lord, and it really speaks volumes to your relationship with him, because you're able to trust him. You know, he's patient, long suffering. Yeah. So we always talk about here, like every single guest that comes on, the importance of having that relationship, the importance of studying the word so you know it, because it's practical. You know,
it is.
When we grew up in religion, religion says these are the rules. This is what you have to do. Here are the policies and the procedures, and you have to follow them. And the relation says, well, I want to give you some examples and walk this thing out for you. I want to provide you a rationale and explain to you the pros and the cons of following this, you know, and how this benefits you and all your little brothers and sisters out here. I just love how you intertwine that. It doesn't. Being in a relationship with Christ does not require you to go around beating people with scripture. It's a practicality to it and how you live your life, and people will see based on the fruit that you produce. But it's easy for you to go back and say, I'm aligned with the word of God. So if you want to have a deeper discussion, we can talk about that. I just wanted to point that out. I love that. I just love it.
And once again, we were brought up in the church, and I used to get so mad at my mom for practically dragging us to church all the time. And Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, are we ever going to get a break from this? But, she was creating that foundation so that whenever we would venture off on our own, we would have that solid foundation to go back on. And the only thing that's really solid in this world is him. That's it.
That's it. That's really it. We got a question for you, Keisha. For Jean Johnson. Hey, Jean, thanks for joining us today. So what do you do to align your vision with companies that you want to or are now interacting with? That's an interesting question, because she asked to align your vision with companies that you want to or are now interacting with.
That's an excellent question. I don't want to work with anyone that doesn't have a vision that aligns to mine. Now, when I say that, I don't know if everybody that owns a business is God-filled, and that's not for me to figure out. What I am doing when I align myself to other people in their companies so that we can merge together and do business together, I make sure that the partnership is fruitful, that we are able to impact the life of someone else. And if we can do that in a way that one person is not trying to take from the other and it's not equal, the benefits to each other is not equal, then that's all that matters. But you have to remember too that every business collaboration is not meant to be. Every money that you receive from other people is not always good money. Every client is not supposed to be your client. Sometimes, you can align yourself with certain things that will actually make your vision look bad, as opposed to increasing the fruit of your labor or actually helping you to expand and grow. So it's just that discernment, that prayer for life, asking God to bring people into your space that he knows that fits, because that really does matter. But just remembering that those partnerships need to be equal, need to be fruitful, and need to be beneficial to the people that you serve.
I love it. I love it. So making sure that their vision aligns to yours, not the other way around. Right. Because you want to change or alter what God has given to you, and then making sure that it's a mutually beneficial situation that will be fruitful. I love it. I love it. We have another question from Ostis Maradati. As a mother, entrepreneur, and service to humanity through aging beauties in particular, how do you balance the time?
Oh, wow. That I see that somebody from Kenya, and I know who that is. So the balancing of time is extremely difficult, but I make sure that I form a to-do list and I prioritize the things that have to be done in a certain time frame on a certain day. And I create that to-do list based around, are these things that are revenue making individual items for my company? Because you don't want to spend a lot of time doing things that's not going to profit. Right. So are those items revenue making or generating money for my company? But then after I make that to-do list, there's a certain cutoff time that you need to have for your sanity. And once you figure out what that time is, you cut it off and you go home and you spend time with your children and you make sure they understand that you still own a business, but you're still their mother and you still have things that you need to do for them and at your home. So it's just the structure of it all.
So basically, you're saying you partner with self and establish boundaries.
Yes.
You establish boundaries. I was looking, I think it was Proverbs I was reading the other day, and it says that wealth and houses come from parents. Parents give wealth and houses to children, but a wife comes from God. A prudent wife comes from the Lord. And so it's funny that you have to have that conversation. I like how you said, my kids know that I'm a business owner. They know what I'm doing, because ultimately that is going to benefit them in the long run. When you transition, it's always our good fortune and a blessing to anyone that's a parent to be able to leave an inheritance to their children, especially if they have the same gifts and calling. They can build upon what you've done and see it through. So that's great. I love that. Thank you. She partners with herself, y'all, and she has boundaries. She said there's a cutoff point. So we hope that answers your question. She's like, I'm not going to be doing this all day. We're not going to be doing this all day.
I used to do it all day, but it really does. It doesn't benefit you health-wise. It really doesn't. So.
Right. I love it. Good. And thank you for the transparency and being candid. Keisha, so what would you say to the Kingdom woman who feels it's impossible to be or feels guilty about being both mission-oriented and business-minded? How would you encourage her to pursue her vision, like all of what's in her, sum total? How would you encourage her to do that?
So going back to what I said earlier about if God gives you a purpose, he gives you the provision to fulfill it. So if he's given it to you, he's already seen the way, the fact that you can do it. He knows you will succeed in it. You just have to make sure that you are aligning yourself to it. And just know too, to be encouraged by yourself. And also understand that sometimes you're not going to have a cheerleading squad around you. And you're going to have to encourage you and then go back to what he told you to do. And just remember that the God of the universe, who owns everything, created all things. He told you to do this. He will never let you fail. And I go back to the story in the Bible, the woman with the issue of blood. She had this issue for 12 years. And sometimes as an entrepreneur, it could be so many years that have passed by when you don't even get to see the fruit of your labor. You don't even know if what you're doing is really what you're supposed to be doing, because you're like, God, I'm doing this and I don't see this. And when am I going to, get to this point? But, after 12 years of her having that issue, she embraced the power that she knew Jesus had, which was healing for her. So embrace the power he's put in you for that purpose. Look upon him to make sure that you fulfill it, because you need to see him for all that he's claimed himself to be, and you'll be fine.
Okay. I like how you said that, because the proof is in the pudding. God is not about bad marketing or advertising. If he said it, he's going to come through.
He's going to come through.
He's going to come through, because he can't be going around looking bad. I mean, that's just the truth. I love how you said that. I love how you said that. Keisha, what's next for you? What is next for you, ma'am? What's next?
Oh, my goodness. I just want to be a better mother. I want to get closer to God. I want to be a wife. And I just want to love people. I want to impact everybody that I come in contact with. I want to help others grow. I don't know what's in store for my businesses, but I'm going to work them until God says to let them go. For the school, we are continuing to expand to different locations. We have Bishopville now.
Wow.
Inside of the adult ed there in Bishopville, South Carolina. We are partnering with the adult ed in Sumter to be in Sumter, South Carolina. So we really want a lot of post-secondary entities in areas where people are having problems with transportation, need a trade so that they could provide for their families, become more self-sufficient, get off unemployment, get off government programs,
Yeah.
For the home care, we just want to serve more seniors to make sure they're taken care of properly in their home. And for the nonprofit, we want to be the voice for those senior citizens who've paved the way for us. And we want to turn this into something international, national, and we're walking by God's grace and listening to Him as He guides us through it all.
I'm done, because I was sitting over here tearing up like, you better say that, girl. She was like, I just want to be a better steward of everything God gave me.
Everything.
She's supposed to be a better steward. She's not chasing the money. I need y'all to listen. She didn't say I'm chasing billions. I'm chasing millions. I'm just going to steward what God gave me. I'm going to walk with Him through this process and then watch how He shows out. Basically, we sit back and enjoy the ride, or at least walk with Him and have some peace along the journey and enjoying the ride. So, Keisha, I can't thank you enough for coming on. I'm trying not to let the tear fall because it's in there. I'm just like, I'm
always amazed at how God has been so wonderful to me, and His miracles. I am His miracle. I am a miracle. It's amazing. He took me and He used me, and I'm a witness that He doesn't have to use the extraordinary person. He just wants that ordinary person to make extraordinary, and He really knows how to, just carry you. And the only thing that I ever want in life is for people to look at me, to walk in any of my businesses, to see my children and they see Him, because we may be the only Bible that they get to see.
Right.
So that's all. That's it.
I love it. I love it. So guys, to answer the question, can you be corporate and compassionate? Yes.
Yes, you can.
And absolutely. Stay the course, master your art, be purpose focused. Don't forget you have to prep. Don't be afraid to be a trendsetter or innovator. And make sure, most importantly, that you're walking with God through this process, and you can achieve and accomplish both. Keisha, I definitely want to thank you for joining us today. Thanks to our audience members for joining in. You guys tune in next Sunday, August the 2nd, for another featured guest. We will be hosting chemist turned techie, musician, songwriter, aka storyteller Ingrid Woody. She's going to be in the house. Until then, remember, you are essential to the kingdom, women of God. Please, 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 by all means, stay on the move. Bye.